Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Hello and welcome to Greenville Grit. I'm Terry Williams, in today with my co-host, PJ Conley again. Thank you, PJ, for being here today.
Thanks for having me again.
And we've got some exciting things to talk about today and a wonderful guest. The best guest in the world's with us today, Henry Hinton.
Oh.
So we're looking forward to
It's my pleasure.
lots of...
My pleasure. I don't get enough airtime.
That's right. We're looking forward to a lot of Greenville Grit talk today. So we're going to get into
I'm a big fan of the show, and I love what you guys do. So I'm glad I appreciate you asking me to be part of it. Yeah.
Thank you. We've got a lot of things going on, and we want to talk about a lot of things about ECU and other things in our community today. So we'll get into that conversation pretty soon. But we want to thank our sponsors before we get going and take our first break. Greenville Toyota have been with us since the beginning, and we thank them so much. If you're looking for a new or used vehicle, please get in touch with Greenville Toyota. You can visit them on Memorial Drive, or you can contact them on their website, greenvilletoyota.com, or give them a call at 252-321-3000. We also want to thank Ribeyes Steakhouse. They have wonderful food. Great steaks. The other salad bar is really, really good. 2 locations, one here in Greenville on Fire Tower Road, and you can also visit them in Williamston. They have a great location there. And also Overton Residential Properties. Thank you, Michael, for continuing to support us. You can visit us at overtonresidential.com or contact us at 252-375-8620. Michelle Connors, myself, or Trey will be glad to help you buy or sell your home. And you can also... we also handle rentals, and Overton Group also does commercial property. So we're going to take a quick break and come back and get into discussion with Henry about everything happening in Greenville. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to our show today. As I mentioned a little earlier, we have Henry on today with us, and we're going to talk about something that's been a hot issue since the game Saturday. Mm-hmm. But it's been on your show. I tried to call you Monday morning. I couldn't even get through. Had to text you. I didn't even get an answer to my text. I think it was just a hot button issue in a lot of ways. I think it was a heart issue.
You must be talking about the loss of the quarterback. Is that what you're talking
Philip
about?
Nelson.
I
Yes.
wish it was a lot of loss on Saturday, unfortunately. But we are referring to what happened with the ECU marching band.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of talk about that and get some of your comments back that you were talking about and how you got ideas from how the public is feeling about it. Just a lot of different ideas. Wanted to talk about how some of the donors have reacted, how the school reacted.
Right.
And just kind of let's just discuss that.
It's probably been the most divisive thing I've ever seen on campus. I mean, I've never really, it's been building. This whole Black Lives Matter and a lot of the things that are being pushed by and pummeled at everyone from the left, I think this has kind of been building. But the interesting phenomenon to me is that it's happened at so many places across the country, and it happened at the same time it was happening in Greenville. It was happening in Raleigh,
right,
at NC State, and it's almost been a non-issue. In fact, it has been a non-issue. No one seems to care that it happened in Raleigh. So the reaction of the crowd here, I think the fact that the chancellor put out a statement maybe a little bit earlier than he may wish that he had now.
Right.
I think that, I'm not speaking for him, I'm just giving my opinion. But I think that that's what's made it such a big story. And you wonder, why is it so much a story here when it wasn't in Raleigh? And I think it's got to do with, I said this on the air Monday morning, I think it's got to do with where we live. We have very conservative, patriotic people. It's Eastern North Carolina is a huge military presence. But I think it's beyond that. I think that East Carolina University particularly football Saturdays at ECU, is kind of where we all come together, regardless of the color of our skin, regardless
Right.
of our political persuasion or our sexual persuasion or any other disagreement, political party, whatever disagreements
Right.
we might have. Everybody around here is a pirate, and you know, it's just sacrilegious
Right.
to mar that intentionally in any way. Don't you think that
think
really is
so.
what we felt more than anything else?
So I think too, as different things about the story started coming out, I think that there was also some disappointment in, I know for myself, in administration at ECU, because we kept hearing whether or not they're all true, some prior knowledge, not necessarily from the chancellor, I'm not sure he knew, but we did from Facebook, from parents that knew their kids knew there was prior knowledge the night before of what was going to take place. I find it hard to believe that of all the talk in the band, that the band director, there's 3 directors there, didn't hear some kind of talk that something wasn't up, that they didn't maybe have an opportunity to address that. That bothered me.
Oh, I think the band director definitely did.
Yeah,
I
and
think
it
that-
bothers
I'm
me.
and I'm not saying they made the wrong decision. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, with regard to who knew,
Right.
I think there were people. I now know that there were people that knew ahead
Right.
of time. I don't think the chancellor knew what was going to
Right.
happen, but he may have known that something may happen.
Something may happen.
But,
But the
yeah.
fact that it has been going on all over the country, and the fact that all those band members knew its policy.
Yeah.
I don't understand why ECU didn't just all the time before this game.
Well, the
Why
one
they
thing-
didn't
the
address
The one
it.
question I would have about what you said there is that everyone knew the policy.
Right.
I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, when you think about it, you know, we were just talking about this before we went on the air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking about the Constitution here. You're talking about people's right
Right.
to protest. And so the chancellor's first reaction, I think, was that. Now,
Right.
the question then becomes, should you protest while you're wearing a pirate marching band uniform at an ECU football? Have you had your rights taken away from you if you're told you can't do it in a pirate marching band uniform? They've seen Colin Kaepernick do it in a uniform. They saw the SMU band and other bands across the country do it in a band uniform the year before. So what, is there a policy? Was there a policy? Look, people who criticize the chancellor, it's a sticky wicket for him.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a sticky wicket for him. And again, I think everybody had to kind of step back and say, this in the Constitution. I mean, do we have a policy? What's the policy? Which again, I think is why maybe the chancellor put the statement out a little quicker than he maybe should have.
Right.
That's just my own personal opinion. That's not any official position of any kind.
Understand.
But I think at the end of the day, when everybody looked at it and said, well, whether it's their constitutional right to protest, it still doesn't feel good. Still doesn't feel right. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, it doesn't feel right to me when somebody burns a flag, but the Supreme Court says you can do that. So I don't know. It's a very tough issue. And now everyone is weighing in with their opinions and their. It's interesting to me that everybody wants to kind of take this and use it in some way, like the professor that says, "Okay, I'm carrying a gun on campus," which, by the
That
way,
was
I
a-
understand that the police have put an end to that. And
Right.
pretty much said, if you do, we're going to arrest you.
Right.
I don't understand how any of this gives someone license or authority to say, "Okay, I'm just going to break the law."
Right.
But
get that.
everybody, everybody's using it. It seems like, in some way, the Fayetteville radio guy's using it to promote his radio station.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
I think this is what is happening. I think this is just a sign, though, of what is really happening in the political world as well.
no doubt about it.
Because this is what I feel, and I know we kind of differ on Trump a little bit. But I was asked. I
lot.
did an I did an interview.
I am voting for
I
him,
know.
though.
I did an interview not so long ago, and they asked me about the Trump movement, and I think that's what's happened with Trump. Is I think for the last 10 years we've sat back and sort of waited as conservatives. We've seen our world change, and we haven't said very much. There wasn't a place for us to say very much. Then all of a sudden, this guy comes on the scene, Trump, and he starts talking and saying things we wanted to say, and we didn't have any way to say it or any place to say it. And so we're all saying, okay, great. So we get on this Trump train, and we get in this movement thinking, yes, he's finally woken up a sleeping giant. So now I think divert that to what we saw Saturday. Now these people sitting in the stands have paid their money to get in this game, and then you put them in this position, and they have to sit there, and now all of a sudden this happens on the grounds, and they're not going to be quiet anymore about this. Was their right. They paid the ticket.
Sure, it was their right to boo.
It was their right to sit there and not be having
no
to
doubt
watch
about it.
that protest. If you want to protest outside on the street, right out there in front of Elmhurst School,
Right.
that would have been okay. To me, not in the uniform, but to protest, but not there. You know, we forget everybody can't give the big donations, and everybody can't even give the $25,000
Right.
donations. And some of these families save all year and say, okay, we're going to go to ECU football game season tickets this year, or we're going to go to the beach for a week in vacation. What do you want to do? And
Right,
they say,
that's what I think.
they
That's
say,
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
and
they
it's a
say,
big
no,
deal
it's
here.
a big deal
It's
down
a
here.
big deal
They say,
here.
no,
And
we're going to the
people-
game, and then they go there.
People don't want that marred in
That's
any
right.
way.
They just don't want to do it. So
and
they're
it-
speaking up.
Yeah. Look,
They're speaking up.
You haven't asked me what I think about whether they should have done it. I think they absolutely should not
It's
have done
inappropriate
it.
time.
And I think it's right for the university to say to them, you're not going to do it in a band uniform. I think it's also right that if they want to go do it on campus while they're wearing their clothes,
It's
and not a
fine.
band uniform,
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Right.
But you know, here's the thing that I want to point out. I had this conversation with one of my coworkers this morning after my show, not on the air, but I've said this on the show too. Here's what I also want to include in the conversation now every time this comes up. What are you protesting?
Right.
We're not even asking these young people, what is it you're protesting? And then when they say, well, I'm protesting, and you know, most of them are probably, although I understand some of the band members didn't really know what they were protesting, seriously, which is sad. But if somebody says Black Lives Matter, then I want to respond with this. So then you believe that white police officers across this country are systematically killing black men. That's what you're protesting? Watch their face when you say that. Now, some people are going to come back and say yes, but then most of the people that I've said that to, they kind of go like, I don't know if I want to go that far. Well, here's the thing. That is what
that their
Black Lives
platform?
Matter is protesting.
Right.
That's what started this. You know, Colin Kaepernick can come back and say, well, no, it's not really that, but it is really that.
Right.
That's what started this. And so, you know, I think that if people want to protest, they have a right to protest. But I think if they're going to do that publicly, then we ought to be able to know what they're protesting.
Yes. But what has risen to the top of this isn't really even Black Lives Matter. What has risen to the top of this is that they were disrespectful to the American public. That
Right.
was there. That's what's so sad. They really have lost what they were protesting in all
Well,
of this.
you and I grew up, and,
You know.
and I've said this on the air a few times. You and I grew up in a family where patriotism was not taught or even expected. It was just implied.
That's right.
I mean, we were patriotic. You know, we were patriotic. We said the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning when the national anthem came up. Let me tell you something. My dad fought in World War II. My uncle got his leg blown off in World War II.
Right.
In my family, if I was at a ball game and the national anthem was played and I didn't stand at attention with my hand over my heart, the next thing I would have felt would probably be a fist in the back of my head.
No.
You know, it was
That's
just
right.
implied.
You
You're
just
going to
did
be
it.
patriotic.
That's right.
And, you know, I grew up that way. But these kids aren't growing up that way now. They're just not growing up that way anymore.
Well, it starts at home, and they're not being taught respect
Right.
for much of anything sometimes.
Right.
And it comes across.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I can tell you, you know, being a former professional athlete, we didn't think once about doing something of that nature. I mean, you know, it was just something. It was out of respect. You know, you learn that way, and a lot of that comes down from our coaches. You know, and when we would sit up there and we would talk to our coach, you know, there was never even the thought of sitting down or kneeling. Everybody stood up for that. You know, and you know, a lot of it comes down to leadership. And I've been saying this for a long time. It starts at the top. You know, when you don't have leadership, you don't have somebody that is somebody going out there telling you this is what needs to happen, or this is how you need to be. You know, this is the mess that we've seen. You know, you've seen this for years and years and years now. I mean, it's gone on for the last 8 years. It's been like this. And, you know, I can tell you, I played on teams in professional baseball and college baseball and summer leagues. There were certain things that we had to do. And if we didn't play.
Right.
And one of those things was, one of my coaches said you had to be clean shaven. And you've seen that, and they said, and I had
Those days are
Those
over.
days are gone.
yeah. I mean, it's completely gone, and I know this is kind of going out there a little ways, but I mean, that's the type of thing, and we didn't once think twice about saying, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not
No,
showing
I
up
don't
for
think you're
doing
going
that.
out there at all. I think that is the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that is the problem. I think, again, I said this earlier too. People can argue with me, and I'll argue with you about this. You tell me if I'm wrong. This started when Barack Obama started the beer summit. When he made it okay for people of color in this country to question the authority of a police officer,
Right.
this is where that started. And so you say it started at the top. This is where Black Lives Matter started. And then all of a sudden you've got a whole group of people across the country who now say it's okay for me to question the police department's authority. And so how's that turning out for everybody? How's that working for everybody? I'm never going to say that I don't believe that there's a problem with profiling black people. I think there probably is. Whether it's intentional or not intentional, perhaps there is an issue with police officers profiling black people. I'm willing to accept that. What I'm not willing to accept is that there's a systematic effort underway in this country to kill black men by white police officers. I mean, the situation in Charlotte didn't even involve a white police officer.
Exactly.
But it doesn't make any difference. It does. It's an inconvenient truth that the black police
right.
officer shot the black guy in Charlotte. It's still part of the movement. Why? Because that's where we are now.
Right.
We're questioning authority, and again, trace it back. It goes back to the beer summit. It goes back to the President of the United States, kind of leading the way and giving permission to people to believe that black men are being wronged by white police officers. I believe that. I won't back down off that.
And the question of the authority doesn't just stop with the police anymore. It
Yeah.
goes, it's all the way across the board with all types of authority.
Right.
They're questioning it all the time, and they're not listening to any authority.
Right.
And that's why we have our country in the biggest mess we're in right now, is because of that. We've just got a big mess in schools, everywhere.
Yeah.
Because
Which
of
brings us
that.
back to why I'm voting for your guy.
I'm
That
glad
and
to
Mike
hear
Pence.
it.
I now.
Now, that was a good-
I now
that
have
was good
I
last
now have a
night.
lot of man love for Mike Pence. I thought he was awesome in the
Yeah,
debate.
I did too.
Good Midwesterner guy that knows a thing or two about the government, knows a two or thing about economics.
And
And
he's
talk about a huge, vast difference between him and former Governor Kane, now Senator Kane. Between the two of them, I mean, that was, to me, it's shocking. Was it $2 billion in deficit he left his state?
Right.
Governor Kane at the time, and you've got Governor Pence that has a $4 billion surplus. It's
Right.
amazing.
Pence is a very engaging guy. He's just not flashy.
Right.
And so, my theory about Mike Pence is if he had come on the scene 20 years ago, before we became a reality television world, that guy might have been a superstar,
Right.
unquestionable, the guy that would win the presidency. But now he's too boring. I mean, seriously. I mean, we live in a reality TV, social media world, and look at what you get.
Right.
When you go down that road, you end up with reality TV stars as your candidates. I mean,
So
and
what
that's
do
the
you
truth.
what do you think will happen Sunday night? How do you think that the two of them will come out for this debate?
I'm just hoping that that they put a shock collar on Trump, and every time he gets out of line, they press the button. When he changed campaign managers, and she had control of him.
Yes.
But you can see she's slowly losing control of him again. The 3 a.m. tweets and that kind of stuff are back, and so they got to get him back under control. And look at what's happened to his polling numbers.
Yeah.
When he stays on message,
Right.
he has a chance, especially with Pence with him now, and Pence
right.
kind of being somebody people are now examining.
Right.
When he's off message, he's a disaster. I mean, and I think everybody will agree to that. Even you, Terry.
I agree. There's about 6 or 7 topics, and every time she brings up something, he should just flash back to another one of those topics.
Shock
Just
collar.
not
He
answer
needs a
his
shock collar.
just not answer her questions. I filled out this survey I got yesterday. from his campaign manager, supposedly, on the email. And it gave you paragraphs you could write. And I think I wrote a book, and then I left him my phone number. I said, if you want to talk to somebody who he needs to talk to, have him call me.
Well,
I'll tell him what he needs to talk about Sunday night.
We elect people in this country to the presidency that are likable. Even if you don't agree with them politically, I mean, just like Barack Obama. Look at that guy. He's likable.
Yeah.
It's hard not to like Barack Obama. You might hate his politics, but as a guy, he gets up and sings Al Green. I mean, he's got an incredible personality. The guy is, he's got this effusive, characteristics that people that you just migrate to. You go back and look at Ronald Reagan had that. Bill Clinton had that. I mean, some of the presidents that we've had, most of them have had that. George W. Bush had that. His dad had that. Richard Nixon, maybe not. I mean, that might have been the one exception in modern history. But I mean, John Kennedy.
Yeah.
He kind of set the tone for that. Likable. We don't have neither one of these candidates are likable for the presidency. Hillary is not liked by anyone. Trump has his groupies, but beyond that, he's not very likable. But when you look at these two presidential candidates, Tim Kaine, not likable, but Mike Pence, he's very likable. And that could be a huge factor, I think.
That's exactly right.
We'll see.
So it also, I noticed, I was listening to your show this morning too, that the numbers for McCrory seem to have changed just a little bit. Do you think that's just a reflection of
I don't really
what's
understand
going on with
that, unless
Trump?
Unless it's the effect that the TV ads are having. The Kathy Taft TV ad. It's an effective ad.
Right.
It's an effective ad. And I don't know, but I'm just saying the reality of it is that those kind of things, the 30-second ads have an effect.
Right.
And maybe that ad is having some positive effect for Roy Cooper. I would hate to think that the governor would lose the race because of that. And I still think it's too early to tell.
Right, I do too.
I think that race is dead even. I've thought that for weeks.
I do too.
I like to kind of use the analogy, especially over the last couple of days, that a lot of these polls, the national polls or state polls, they're a lot like the track of Hurricane Matthew. just wait a day and they'll change.
Right.
Because something new comes out every day. One day it's in this direction, one day it's in the other direction, and until that day comes, until election day comes, we won't know what everybody's thinking.
Well, I heard John Hood on NC Spin talk about the polls, and he said, everybody thinks the public policy polling leans left, Civitas leans right. He said, really what you have to do with polling is look at trends. Are there trends? And unfortunately, the trends have been negative for Trump, and they've been somewhat negative for McCrory in the last few weeks. So, is it a trend? Is it is it the methodology? Is it who's being interviewed? I don't know.
Well, look, we're going to take a quick little break here and come back and wrap up things for Greenville Grit with Henry Hinton and myself and PJ. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to Greenville Grit. We've had a great conversation today with Henry and PJ and I, talking about what happened with ECU, talking about politics a little bit. So what are your final thoughts, PJ? Do you have any other questions you want to ask Henry, or any thoughts you have about what's been happening this week? Or Henry has anything he wants to add? We've got like 2 minutes.
It's been, I don't know, it's been an interesting fall so far. It's been short-lived as a fall, but there's been a lot that's been going on and a lot of controversy that's been going on. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited for the election to get here.
Yeah, I'm kind of ready for it to come and go, so we'll know exactly what's what. The only last comment I would make about the ECU marching band situation is, let's move on.
Right.
I mean, people continue to want to hammer this thing to death. It happened. It's an ugly part of our history now, but let's not make it worse. Let's move on.
Right.
Let's all move on.
I'm looking forward to the next home game.
Yeah.
That everything goes really good. We play
Yeah,
Navy.
That's going to be Navy, yeah.
Show a lot of respect.
Right.
And I think that will happen.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like the school is taking care of the situation and not be expecting it to happen again.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. So
Exactly.
I'm
Thank
glad
you for having
that.
me, by the way.
No, we've enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
And there's been a lot of conversation. I'm looking forward to Sunday night. I am, if I can. It makes me nervous to watch it, though.
Shock collar.
Isn't it a different?
2 words, shock collar.
Isn't it a different type of format too?
It is. Isn't it like a town hall,
I think.
which is different?
Means he's going to be even more unscripted.
Well, they said from what I've been hearing though, they said he does better than Hillary does off the
maybe
script
so.
like that. So
Maybe. It just depends
Probably.
on what he says.
yeah, right.
Well, we want to thank our sponsors again, Greenville Toyota, Ribeye Steakhouse, and Overton Residential Properties. You can see us again on Friday night at 6:30, Saturday morning at 9:30, and then join us again next week. Thank you very much. See you next time.